also a Dovi or not? Is someone's birthday today? See? It's your birthday. And Dovi's back. It's a big day. It's a big day. What? And Fishy's. Okay. I don't want to get misty-eyed. Okay, you guys ready to begin? Today's a big day. Big day requires a big share. Big day. First of all, Rab Naftali Nissim, he was just ma'oring me that something we said yesterday, the chayr is not true. The chayr is not true. I didn't get a chance. This is newfound information. It's rare that I would start a shir, but it looks like it's such a big kasha that Eimal Sod. It's we spoke yesterday, the Shaila, that l'chayram, that's a davar bara. The side we said yesterday, that's a davar bara. That the side of muktzah machem chesron kiss is that the teitzah of not moving it, that's what we're trying to figure out. You know, if I have a teitzah that because of that teitzah, I'm bidafka makbid, I'm not moving this item. It says for its own purpose, for example, I can't use it because it's ister. For some other purpose, I would never use it because I'm makbid, let's say my camera or something like that. Each person could see his item. For the item itself, you can't use it. You're not allowed to take a picture. To use it for something else, you would never do that. You'll be makbid gomer not to do that. So that's a good example. That's a chesaron kiss. So we saw, so let's say you have something that for its own usage, I'm not using it today. What's a good example of that? So we saw all different things that people have, expensive china, expensive silverware, expensive zachin, that he doesn't use unless it's a special occasion or something. So that won't be a chesaron kiss because that's a klisha malachta leheter for all intents and purposes. For itself, I will use it. It just doesn't have the usage today, punkt. But that's not a kpeida. For something else, I won't use it. Who cares? But for its usage itself, that's the greatest bitoy of a davar that's oimid for a kli that there could be. So of course, that's oimid for a keli. So we asked two questions yesterday. So one question, of course, wasn't the question. That was just the whole yisai. One question was if you have something like a brake front that you're not going to move because you're scared to move it. Why are you scared to move it? Because you don't want it to break. So that's a avada. That's a clear that its usage you do use. You do use it. You open up the doors. You take svarim in and out of it. But you're makbid gomer not to be metaltel. So that's, of course, that's a much easier muktzah machas chesaron kiss. That's the easiest chesaron kiss in the world. That's the most simple muktzah machas chesaron kiss that there exists. It's something that I'm makbid gomer not to move. You can't get better than that. And I'm makbid, not just by default, not because it's heavy, not because I'm not in the mood, not because this. I'm makbid gomer not to move her. If you're makbid gomer not to move her, if you have a kasha, you miss the whole sugya on that one. Because that is the entire sugya. The whole sugya says the Mishabur in 3 places. Is that I'm makbid gomer not to be metaltal. The reason I'm makbid gomer not to be metaltal is because of this, because of this, because of this. Who cares? But if I'm makbid gomer not to be metaltal, so the other kasha that we asked yesterday was the chayram. That's already a big kasha. We asked the kasha from the case of klei schayra. Klei schayra, yes, says the Heilige Ramah that if you have a keli that's miyuchad for schayra and you're makbid on the keli, so then that's already going to be a muktzah machmas chesron kiss. The simple pshat in the Shulchan Aruch is like we explained yesterday, that when you have something that the person is makbid on it, not to get ruined, why would it be makbid? He wants to be able to sell it, like the Ramah's carpets. He doesn't want anybody to, for itself, he's not going to use it because he doesn't want anybody stepping on the carpets because he wants to sell it. To go and use it for something else, he's certainly not going to use it because he doesn't want the carpet to get ruined for the same reason. So therefore he's makbid gomer on this item. So he asked the kasha, the chayr tzem malachta leheter. It's chayr malachta leheter. So I said yesterday that I don't understand the whole shaila. The shaila doesn't even begin because it's not really a kli heter. Bamis, what is a kli shemalachta l'schayra? What's a kli that's oimid for schayra? It's gelt. By him, it's a klei schayra. So the night before, you're allowed to do business on Shabbos. You're not allowed to sell it. So I'm saying, what is it? It's a kli oimid l'schayra. It's a kli shemalachta l'itzer. It's a kli whose function is to do what? To sell. So that becomes, by me, I was miyachid it to sell. So klape its own usage, I can't use it on Shabbos. To use it for something else, I won't use it on Shabbos. So I said that's the same thing. Maisa, Rabbi Nissim, he says to me that I'm incorrect. Mishabur is not like that. Mishabur in Sivkot in Zion, he says, "Umakbid aleim shaloi l'shtamish b'hem." It's an item that you want to sell. Let's say yana carpets. We'll talk about cases today, but yana carpet or yana this or whatever, anything, clothing or whatever it is. Why don't you want to use it? Kadesh skalkal. Says the Mishnah Berurah, so you're not careful with it. You sell things and you don't care, right? You're not makbid like a secondhand store or whatever. So even though it's something that's oimid to be sold, so then it's mutter to move around. Now, the Mishnah Berurah doesn't say that it would be mutter to move around. It doesn't say in the Mishnah Berurah. The way that we're learning, the Mishnah Berurah should have said like this. He should have said, if you have kalim that you plan on selling, and you're makbid on them, so then that's a chesron kes. If you have kalim that you plan on selling, it could be a million things. People have things and not so makbid. He doesn't really care, right? He wants to sell it, but he's not, it's a brenzuch as we say. Sometimes in the showroom, he's not so makbid on it, even though eventually wants to sell it too. He's not so makbid on it. That's part of the whole musik of a showroom. I thought a showroom is a good example of this. It's something that you're going to sell, but you're not so makbid. You will use it. It's in the showroom. It's out. It's in the usage. I guess the person thinks himself, look, before he sells it, he's going to have to touch it up anyways. So maybe he's not so careful with it. So what is this? In my language, this should have been a klisha machbel yeser. It's true, it won't be a chesron kiss because I'm not going to be so makbid on it. But it's still a klisha machbel yeser. It's something that's still miyuchad v'oymid for other things. Excuse me, it's still miyuchad v'oymid for the purpose of schayra. So that was the question he asked. It's true. It's true. It's not 100% muchach, right? It means because there's two ways you could get out of it. It could be the Mishnah Berurah at this point. The Shulchan Aruch and Sif Aleph has never mentioned yet klisha machbel yeser. So you could say he's just saying shari betiltul, and it just means it's not real muksa. But it could be it's fake muksa. It's a bit of a doichik. It's not the worst doichik. It's a bit of a doichik. Another way to get out of it, which is also maybe yeshladin, is that at kama that he's not makbid on it. So then maybe that takes away its yichud l'schayra. Let's say my example of a showroom. So my example of the showroom is that what's the lumdus of having a showroom? The lumdus is eventually all these things I'm going to sell also, right? But right now I'm not so makbid on them. I do other things with them. The marshal that case. So that miyuchad just for Isser? Maybe we look at it and we say it's miyuchad for Isser and for Heter, and therefore maybe it's a klisha machbel Heter. And maybe that's the case that the Mishnah Berurah is talking about. But akapanim, it does require, I think, another teretz. The reason why I do feel I have to try to be matzik this teretz is because last night I saw there have been Tzina Bashal. He says the same teretz. So already you see that somebody big said the teretz, and there is a validity to this teretz. But I do hear your question, and Mitzvah Shem, I'll look into it. But there is another mahalach here. The other mahalach you could say over here is that when you have something which is oimid for schayra, like what we're dealing with over here, something is oimid for schayra, so then maybe it's very simple why this is a chesron kes. Maybe it goes back to our regular side that when you have something that you're so makbid on it that you just don't move it, you don't use it, you don't do anything with it, so then it turns into what you have your figurines over there, right? It turns into your figurine. Something that he's so careful with, even it could be a davar shel heter, but it could turn into a davar. I'll give you an example. I once did shluch hakan, and I did shluch hakan a few times, but this was like when they tried to make shluch hakan into a business. There was a place in England. Someone told me to go to this yeshiva over there, and they fly up some 100, 200 foot tree, and they, you make him a shliach, and he comes down with all types of schnitzels and birds, and all types of eggs and everything, right? So I drove like a couple. It was called where? Hitchin. Ah, very good. You work there? What is it? You know what I'm talking about? Hitchin. It's famous even. So I went to Hitchin. It was a yeshiva and everything. I was like, Bachram, second I came. It was a big yontif there. And I came there. And then they asked me to give them a shir. They knew I was, so they asked me to give them a shir. So, but they still made me pay for the bag. Anyways, so they go up this tree, flies up this 200-foot tree, boom, he comes down. You don't know what happened up there. I mean, fragnished, but the Bachram having schnitzel, and he comes down with 2 eggs. So then they take these eggs, and then they have to spray them. Who did this? Am I the only one? Who did it? I'm the only one. So they spray it, and they make you a whole nice carrying case and this. And they give a donation to the yeshiva, and it's a gewaltige Sache. So I had them. And they were like, miyuchid as now eggs in general, it could be that it's, maybe it's muksa machmas, that it's a muksa machmas gufa because it's oimid for nothing. But here, by me, it was like some type of like a trophy, like a certain trophy. Some people, they have trophy of all types of interesting, stupid things, that he was able to like put a ball inside a net and does all those things, like a football or a baseball or whatever. So me, I have a trophy that I did shluch hakan. And it was there in a box, and it said like my name, and it had the 2 eggs and dust, and there you go, right? And I put it on a high shelf, Aisha. Why did I put an Aisha? Because I don't want anybody. It was on the shelf that everyone could see that I did Shluch HaKan. It says on it like that. And then one day I came home and there was my son. He was about, I think, 8 at the time. And there he was. And there were the 2 eggs on the floor. And there was that. And then I walked in and he was there and he looked at me. I looked at him and I told him, you're not in trouble. Just don't lie. You're not in trouble. Just don't lie. What happened? He said, I won't lie. Right? I told her not to climb. and okay. So, that's how you got in trouble. Don't lie. One thing you don't do is you don't lie. Right? So anyways, so the Maisa, that's a good example of something that you're meyached a place and you don't want anyone moving it and you don't, that's a good example of a davar that you never move. You don't use it for anything. You're meyached, it's makim, this is a figurine, an emistic figurine, yeah? So that's it. So maybe it's the same thing by the klei schayra, and that would answer the kasha. Maybe the klei schayra is so careful with that you don't move, you won't use it for other things because you don't want it to get ruined. Now, if that's the teretz, just one moment, if that's the teretz, it's going to come out tremendous nafkaminas. It's going to come out tremendous nafkaminas, right? For example, the mashal, all the things we spoke about. Let's say you have, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have things that, plastic plates or something. Like my example yesterday in the canteen. There's a canteen, they sell plastic plates and plastic cups and all types of zachen and whatever and all types of things. Okay, so if it's a type of a matziv where he uses it as his closet, so then there's no shaila. It's a second closet for him. He also sells things. I don't think anybody will say it's miyuchad for Isser to sell. He also uses it. That's the extreme case. The extreme case that it's pashit, that would be called miyuchad for his house. It's not miyuchad for anything. Avadi, that's his kalim, and Avadi Punkt also sells the things in his house, and that zikr won't be muksa according to the other extreme. Right? That'll be mlachta leheter, pashit, no shayla, no shayla. The other extreme is I saw that the Chazon Ish, he speaks out Derech what we spoke about, the Chazon Ish in the 42nd Siman. In Nois Tez Zayin, he says, let's say a mol of the chen, when he uses the items, he says, those are the words in the Chazon Ish. He says, let's say, my case of the carpet. It's like, if I want a carpet, I'm going to my own store to take a carpet, right? If I have a furniture store and I want chairs, I'm going to my own store. But it's like klal that such a thing should come. So he says, that's the case that the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah is talking about. That's the 2 extremes. And that's the case where it's going to be a chasar and kiss. Okay? There's a lot in between. There's a lot of cases in the middle, So what happens? You have a case in the middle that the people, they usually won't take stuff from their store, but definitely a mul happens. And it doesn't happen once a year. It happens once a month. I don't know. It's not lo shchiach klal. But it's like shchiach. It's something in the middle. It's like in the middle. It's difficult to know what should be the halacha in this case, but that'll mamish be enough gemina. If you learn the way I was learning yesterday, so then fart, it's a klisha melach d'eliezer. You're only going to be allowed to use it l'tzar gufa mekayman, right? It's still a klisha melach d'eliezer. It's still something that's oimid for schayra, but you can't say he's so makbid maybe, and you can't say with he's so. Or let's say stop. Let's say you have things that you're not so careful with, mamish, like the case of the mishabura. That'll be mamish and afgamina. If you learn the way I'm learning, so then it's going to be a klisha melach d'eliezer, and it won't be a chesron kiss. If you learn the other way, it'll be klisha melach d'heter. So it's a very big nafkamina, and that's what we do have to try to find out maybe what Rabbi see and how he's going to answer this kasha. We do have to see this. Shmir Shabbos, he says, if you have something you want to return, he says that goes into this sif also because you're very careful. Why are you so careful? Because you know that if something happens to it, you're not going to be able to return it. The problem is, the Olam was coming to me yesterday afterward and telling me it's not the Metzias today. The Metzias today is that, that they're not so careful when they have things to return. Because they just take back everything. That's what they tell me. They'll just take back and whatever. And, the stores that know not to let Jews buy, those stores know. And the stores that do, each their own, Well, who agrees with that statement? I think he's still careful, but who agrees with that? Who agrees with the statement? He agrees? Okay, we know who not to let to buy in our stores. All right, thank you. And who says it's not true? He's still careful? He says he's still careful? I think he's still careful. I think people are still careful. He's not don't use that. Don't use that. We're returning it. You never heard those words? Don't use it. We're returning it. No, don't. Leave it. Never heard those words. Va? It's not fair. They don't get the jokes. He said, or they say fakir, use it. We're returning it. Okay, I have to give the laugh also. It's not fair otherwise. Okay, but so I don't know. Someone's showing me his egg also from Hitchin. I see yours cracked too. Look at that. Tell him not to lie. No, kids, what do you say? I don't know. I'm not convinced. It could be. It's totally in each person. It's totally in each store. I don't know if the Shmir Shabbos had to change yet what he's writing, but it looks like the next fuss he's going to already have to change, right? Tovi, welcome home. What do you say? What do you say? Huh? You think that it's true? That people are still a little bit careful or no? Depends which store, huh? Depends which store. Okay, let's go weiter. No, the idea already comes. I saw the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi say the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in the 88th Siman and the 6th Sif. He writes, if it's the darken of the owner of the store to lend out his items. Interesting store. But if it's the derech of the store that he doesn't, he lends out his items, he said that's a vada, not a chesron kiss. It's totally in seichel. You have to have seichel in this whole thing, This is the idea. We spoke yesterday about food. I saw the Chayodam in Samechei, Ois Gimel, Ois Zion. It's Gimel Zion, like that. So he says over there, food is never a problem. We spoke yesterday. Person's never, mekatzes das from food. He always knows there's a potential that he might eat the food and whatever. Okay, I don't mean obviously raw food, and that's all different shmooze, things that are not edible. But food is always a possibility that he's going to eat the food, and that's how it goes. The Chayodam, just give me 1 second. The Chayadim in Samech Vav Beis, he says the same thing by Svarim. He goes further and he says, who had been by Svarim? Because Svarim is something, Chazal never wanted to answer these things. They always want you to have the potential of learning. I don't know, if somebody asked yesterday, who was Rabbi Shvalbi, who asked me about antique Svarim? So, you guys. So I don't know. He seems to be saying that they always want you to have the potential of being able to learn, and like they never, I don't know. Let's say, what? Sorry? I'm not sure. It might be Kisvei Kodesh. He says a svar there because they always want you to be able to learn. Sorry? I understand. So I don't know. Maybe he's learning. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if this is the heter of Kisvei Kodesh. It might be something. Kisvei Kodesh can never turn into Kisvei Kiss. I don't know. No, the only thing I'll tell you is like this. You all say, what do you mean? When it comes to an antique, so then nobody lets you look at it. Okay, there's a difference between an antique that's in a museum behind the thing and nobody's allowed to move it. I hear. Okay, because that became a stone. But I'm all, you have an antique, somebody has an antique, and anytime I go to somebody's house or something, and he has one of these, he always wants to show it to me. Somebody showed me the first Mishnah Berurah, and nobody's allowed to look at it, nobody's allowed to touch it, but he don't get it to me, he opens it up, he wants me to look at it, so there is a nice place that it's the same idea, Mr. that you're very makbid, you're very, very makbid. But for its shimush, you're looking for the right person to show the shimush too. I don't know if that's the same idea. Maybe it's like the antique decanter. I don't know. Maybe you want somebody who appreciates it like that. I don't know. It's not so posh. What do you want to ask? Expensive bottle of alcohol. Yeah. Yeah. Like you're only going to use that bottle of whiskey for your daughters, for the Mazinka, not stop the first chassid, like the last one, and that everything's so you could sell, and there's no more money anyways. So you have the whiskey bottle for the last chassid. This is the last one, and you've been holding it and saving it. And she's 3 years old, and no Rivka is a chassid at the age of 3, right? So she's not getting married for at least another 5-6 years, right? And now it's Shabbos. And you want to show somebody, look, this is a bottle of, it's like not even blue or green. It's like rainbow label, it's like any color you want, And you say, look, kick it out. This is for when that little girl over there in diapers, when she gets married, right? So that's going to be muksa. That's going to be muksa. So you never know what happens if somebody retzach like it's a shidduch, what happens, what happens if, you never know. I don't know. It's not shchiach klal. But that's what the Or Sameach told us already. When it comes to oichel, oichel is a zad thing that, some of these things, I guess you have to understand that. So it's an interesting thought. I would have thought, I don't know. Somebody once asked me, your whiskey, Shiley, told me he has a bottle of whiskey that he's never ever using. He puts it on the side, just like it's like a very expensive bottle of whiskey, and it's just there. Is that like a tachshit? Huh? He's never touching it. He's never drinking. He's never touching it. This is a person told me about his father. He's never touching it. He's never drinking it. Like a trophy is that. Like, is that expensive? What? It's a figurine? What? Yeah. From the Biskarov. And the bris that we're just waiting for the kid to get married to Rabbi's son. Daughter. What? You mean you have like a matzah from the Rebbe? You have like a matzah from the Rebbe, right? What? Or some people have wine. What? Wine from the Lubavitch Rebbe. I'm talking about like a Rebbe that's in the Olam HaEmes. I mean, it's so that What? Still, yeah. You can still get it. Just go to what? It's true. They had pickles that were from Mamish 45 years old. It's true. Yeah, that's true, Tucker. Yeah, that's true. No, I don't know. What do you say?
I have a friend, it's Shver, who marries his daughters.
Yeah.
He gives them to mix his own wine. He gives them a second edition of bottle that he bought from the day she was born.
The bottle that he made on the day she was born. Yeah. Does he have any more daughters? Okay. So I don't know. I must admit, I'm not so convinced about this. It's not the most negay shayla, he's not moving the bottle of whiskey, So it's not the most negay shayla, but it's something to think about. Okay. But now let's start this year. Okay. Clothing. Reb Nissen, other of this. The clothing is not going to be like, this has nothing to do with the shayla. Did they not geyser on clothing? Did they not geyser on oichel? Avada clothing is a type of schayra that's going to be chesar and kiss. It's not the pshat that, what they were never geyser on, they weren't even geyser chesar and kiss. That's not the lamdas. That's the, okay. So let's start this year, okay? Let's start. So, okay, yeah. I mean, okay, I don't know. I don't know. The thing with the careful, I don't know. I think people are careful with things that they're returning. That's what I think. I think they're careful. I don't. What? You're still careful. You're still, mamish not careful. Okay, so then I don't know. Then it won't be muksa. Kitzer, it's totally in das. I don't know. It's totally in this. Right? Now that's far the Shleim Zman, the Micha Shleima, the 17th Siman, Ois Beis. He brings down that's far of the figurines. He said that's far that we said that if you give it its makim and you don't move her, so that's the biggest chesron kiss shayach. Yeah, that's the biggest site. That's number one. Number two is paper. Comes again, Rebbe, Mishabura, something Mishabura. He says, paper? What are you talking? Avada. Nir chalak, shoymid l'ksiva, that's chesron kiss. A shtik papir, that's a muksa machmas chesron kiss. So that's true in Tavshin Pei Aleph in 2020, is a piece of paper, chesron kiss. So Mishabura firmly believes in this, in Charat Zion, in Sivkot and Tess, in Shinyud Beis, right? Mishabura believed in this. Mishabura also believed that paper was a cost of. You know the story? Did I ever tell you the story with the Chavetz Chaim and the Rashab? I told you the story. No? I told you the story now. No? All right. So the Chavetz Chaim says, like, the Chavetz Chaim was at the Asifa. It was mistam in like 1913, right before the war. All the ideas that they had never came to fruition because the world went upside down afterward in the war. But Akapanim, so the Chavetz Chaim was there, and the Chavetz Chaim had to get after shtik papir because he was writing his chedushim. So he told the person that was with him, tell him maybe to find him a piece of paper, shtik papir. So he looked around, and the Rashab got the Heisbacher who was with him, and he had the rights to the Rashab's things in Zachin. So they told him maybe have a piece of paper for the Chavetz Chaim. So Chavetz Chaim, Avadi went in, he told the Rashab took out or the Heisbach, it's a whole shot of what the story exactly was. But he went in and he took out like a Rebbe's stationery, like not stop, and he brings it to the Chavetz Chaim. So the Chavetz Chaim takes out, it's like 2 kopek loch, it takes, and he starts giving the money for the paper. The Chavetz Chaim just wanted like the back of a cigarette box, but that's, so the Chavetz Chaim Shai was coming to him, so he started taking out kopeks, and no. So the guy, whoever's with the Chavetz Chaim told him, no, Rebbe, the Chavetz Chaim, it's no, you don't understand. By the Rashab, it's nicht Geld. It's nicht Geld, not Geld. By the Rashab, like, to kopek loch, if it's a piece of paper, it's not Geld. What are you doing? Don't worry, it's not Geld. So the Chavetz Chaim said, du verstehst nicht, bei mir ist euch nicht Geld. By me, it's not Geld. Why? Because when it comes to Yenim's Geld, when it comes to taking something, who knows, maybe he gave it because Shemtzach, it's a little embarrassed, what's he going to say no to this, that? He says, and by me, if Chalila I take up as something that somebody didn't give with his fullest rotzen and its fullest dots, it could make a malach that with one kick can knock over the ganze Petersburg. What are you talking? By me, it's oichet nicht Geld. Right? So Chavetz Chaim, but good verstanden, what's his papier and what's near. And I guess, it wasn't just the Rebbe's stationery. And he held paper is a muksa, machos chesron kiss. Comes again, Rav Moshe, 100 years later. Rav Moshe has a tshuva about this. It's interesting tshuva. We're going to have to talk about this tshuva. It's in Chelik Dalet, Siman Beis. I gave shir about this in a different place where I'm talking about the Yanim of Geniza and whatever. And over there, the Rav Moshe tshuva is very interesting tshuva. Rav Moshe talks about it. You're allowed to take paper and you have paper inside your Gemara. So that's what I'm talking about in this other place. Where Rav Moshe has a tshuva. He says, even if I let you put the paper in on a Tuesday, In other words, your sefer is not a storage folder. Some people think, this is where you put the invitations. You can find the ganze full beard in there sometimes, the guy who learned this, he was redhead. Interesting, you know exactly what I'm talking about sometimes, no? You go in there, you see a whole beard. What's going on in there, right? But anyways, it's not the place for stationery, and it's not the place for holding things. So Moshe has a chiddush, that paper that you need in your Gemara so that, it's going to help you learn. Because you have paper in the Gemara, you'll be able to just quickly write or whatever. Others hold you can't do that. Moshe held you could. So Moshe says, even if I let you do that on a Tuesday, he says, but now you're going to have a problem that it's going to make the ganze Gemara bosses. That's what Moshe is talking about over there. It's going to make the ganze Gemara bosses. That's the true word, which is a chiddush. We're going to learn bosses. We're not going to understand them. We're going to try to understand, but it's a big chiddush. My Gemara is to hold up the paper. It's hard to understand. Okay. After a blank piece of paper I'm talking about. Once there's stuff written on it, it's not muksa. Okay. But upon him, so Ramosha there, in the Derech Agav, he says, paper's muksa? He says, paper's muksa? So Ramosha said, Ein bar das, there's no bar das, that's, I read you the Lashon, I wrote it down. Leimatzinu bar das, ma'abed nir shiyachal lichteva. We never found a normal person that has seichel, that just takes a piece of paper. In Yiddish, Rabbi, when he once said over this, Moshe said, he once asked for Moshe, this is coming from Moshe. And Moshe said, what crazy person just throws away a piece of paper? Those were the words of Rav Moshe. So Moshe said that a paper is something that we're careful with. Very hard to understand. I don't throw away anything, right? That shows what's Chesar and Kiss. Chazarin kiss, the Agdara Chazarin kiss is something that I would let a child play with. I don't know. I don't let my kid play with this, that. It depends if you like your kids. It depends if you like your items. It depends if you like your house. I don't, I don't know if the Agdara is that if I would take a piece of paper and throw it away. You're right. I also don't throw my hammer away. So that's a Chazarin kiss. So what's Rav mean? What's Rav mean? What does it mean? It's hard to understand. So, what? Okay, so Elamai, you have to say maybe something like this. I saw there's a sefer, the Megillah Sefer. He says something al derech this. He says, well, look, L'maisi, you're right. Today, people, they use paper to cover things. Okay, I'm not talking about stationery and chashuva paper and paper that you're careful with, right? I'm not talking about that. Obviously, you realize that could be chesron kiss. That's something you're careful. You won't use it for something else and whatever. Okay, right? But let's say you have regular paper. And so, you'll use it for something else. You'll cover something with it. You'll show somebody, what? That paper airplane, one of Fishy's favorites. There are things, right? I only have a few more minutes to torture you, but there are things, right? There are things. So this sefer, the Megillah Sefer, very chashuv sefer, he writes, okay, it's true today, many times we are going to just use paper for other things. So he says, well, what's the lumdis? The lumdis says, Kol Zman, the paper is oimid for paper. Kol Zman, and this is what Rabbi Spire is saying, Kol Zman, the paper is oimid for paper. You're careful with it because then it'll be ruined and you won't be able to use it to write on it. Right? The second you make the decision that I don't want to use it for paper, right? The second you make the decision that you don't want to use it for paper, so then by say rega, you change your mind. Okay, so but that's already called that you change the yichud. The yichud was asked, let's say when Shabbos came in, do I want it for paper? Yes, right? Now, when I'll make a decision, I'm going to use it for something else, so that's a decision. But that means now you changed the yiyud. But the yiyud of paper, because man, you didn't use it for something else to be used for paper. Therefore, he says it would be chesar and kiss. That's not what Rav Moshe says, though. Rav Moshe says, "Velecha meshigin v'aftavek ashtik papir velecha bardas." Who's the normal person or an abnormal person that throws away a piece of paper? Rav Moshe, I don't know. Is it such a kasha? I'm a day older than all of you, kinderlach. Okay. Does anybody here? My TV guys. These are all the old men. Me and the old guys. No, you guys. What? You don't remember? 50 years ago. What would have happened if you Zayda, he would have seen a paper? You think paper grows on trees? You say, Zayda, it does. Who remembers? What are you talking about? So those days, I don't have a problem saying, halacha never changes, Rabbi Isai. But what does the Chazon Ish write in the Nigris Kodesh? He says, worse than making a mistake in halacha is making a mistake in the application of the halacha and applying it to a place it doesn't apply. If today people, Rabbi say, how could you say 50% of the time when we have a paper, we're going to use it for this, or we'll use it for something else? So how could you say it's changed its yield? Half the time I use it for this, half the time I use it for that. So I don't have a problem saying that it changed. I don't have a problem saying that Rav Moshe Feinstein, I read the words in Rav Moshe, and I will tell you that Rav Moshe Feinstein today will tell you that paper is not a chesron kiss. We'll see what it is. She might be something else. right? But she's not a chesron kiss. Just one moment. She's not a chesron kiss because yes, don't mention the tag. And my bar, Moshe said, who throws out paper? He doesn't mean ma'abed paper. He means who wastes paper for non-writing purposes. Who wastes paper for non-writing purposes? And berega, you have to keep it for writing purposes. Of course, you can be very careful because otherwise it gets ruined very easily. But who's the Michigana that would waste a piece of paper, fishy? Airplanes, right? Who's the person that the kid comes in, you give him a piece of paper, just time to scribble? Yes, everybody does today. Nobody does today. I asked this question a few years ago to David Feinstein, and he said he doesn't have a problem saying that the Metzias has changed. And the Mela, I think that's how you have to go. But we didn't say anything yet because we still don't know what paper is. And that's why I go. Now, Agov, I don't know, each paper you have to don on its own. You have to don. I have these little squares of papers and things like that. Those for sure you'll use for anything. Those you have a square of papers that for sure you use for anything. That for sure is what I'm talking about. You have a stationery that's for sure the opposite direction, right? That you don't waste. That's what people are careful for. Okay. Then you have things like in the middle. You have like a notepad. You have a notepad, which is interesting. Especially in my house, I have a paper. Oh, you guys know what paper is? Because some of you only know these technology things, right? Paper, you guys look at paper. You pick up paper to show them what it is. Yeah, pick up that's paper. Okay, so the paper, like that type of notebook, right? It could be that type of notebook. Okay, so that notebook doesn't count now because he already wrote Torah in it, so the whole thing is not muksa or whatever. Okay, but let's say on day one of that notebook, it could be day one of that notebook that I'm a yuchid just for writing. I want to write the shir, and I don't waste that paper. Each person on his own is going to have to be kaveya. And he doesn't give that paper. He says, no, don't use that paper. You have to know in your own life what it is. I'm not going into everybody's own house and trying to figure out what's a chesron kiss. You have to on your own try and figure this out. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Boss? It's a shtickle raya because that in Ramosha's time they didn't do that, right? In Ramosha's time they wouldn't do that. They would find somewhere else to do it. What? Yeah. What? Yeah, but it has something written on it. So the Davar Shel Heter, it's noi, right? It says all this. Hashem Yisparach, right? Because lots of Vayda. We want a kiddush. We want the. Sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm also careful of my Gemara, but it's mutter to read this. It's a Davar Shel Heter. Okay. So I don't know. Now there's a whole other sugi here that. I'm sorry. No, you can't make paper airplanes in Shabbos. No, don't make real ones or paper ones. No, you can't. But you can't do it. So it's going to be a kli shamlach l'yisr. So the question is if it's even worse. There's no question that paper is at least oimid to do an isser. You're not going to be allowed to move around paper. You might need it l'tzarech gufa gesundheit. You might need it l'tzarech makayim gesundheit, right? It does sound like from Reb Moshe and the Mishnah Berurah that the only issue of paper is she a chasarin kiss? Berega, she's not a chasarin kiss. She turns into a malach l'yisr, and then you're in business. You can move it l'tzarech gufa, l'tzarech makayim. I'm just telling you, we're going to have a whole sugya. It might be she's a muksa machmas gufay. And that has to do with the whole thing that right now paper is not doing anything. Paper is something you do something to. You understand? Paper is not, it might be like a nail, a kli. It's something that you do. It's an unfinished product, possibly. It's the purpose of paper is to have something written on it. So it's not a finished product yet. Or do you say, no, but Hashem, let's hold off on that. Boss? Yeah, let's hold off on it. It's not good die. But it's at least a kli shamnach l'yisr. She's at least a kli shamnach l'yisr. I would say from Mishnah Berurah Reb Moshe that they didn't say, by the way, it's gufay anyways, that they're obviously taking on that it's not a gufay and that she's only a chesron kiss. And the Mela now, I'm telling you, she's not a chesron kiss on half our papers. So therefore she becomes a kli shamnach l'yisr. Is that crystal clear, my friends and family? In Pashtus, once it's already partially used, the whole thing becomes one big, it's bottled to the divrei Torah or the divrei mutter, whatever she is, and then it's probably malach l'yata, but that's a shayla that we're going to have to become more educated in order to learn. That's a shayla. Sorry? I don't think so. He's asking the Rebbeinu Shalom for Siyata D'Shmaya. Okay, let's see. That's something we didn't talk about yet. Exactly, at what point it's called that it turned into a Malach L'Yata. That we have to talk about. Now, one more case before I go to, we got to get back to these Pesach Kalim and Rabbi Rosenberg, he just wants to know very badly with electrical appliances. I know. I haven't forgotten. Don't worry, okay? Never let you down, relax, okay? The esrig, this is something which could really open up our eyes to things. What's an esrig? Is an esrig a chesron kiss? Is an esrig an oichel? Is an esrig, so we have different time periods, right? We have the days before Sikkis, we have the days of Sikkis, we have the days, you'll see in the middle, there's a difference between day one of Sukkot. We have the days of Shabbos, obviously, I mean Shabbos. Right? We have the days of Shabbos before Sukkot, the days of Shabbos in the middle of Sukkot. We have the day after day one, which maybe that could be different. Then we have the days nach Sukkot and whatever. Okay, so nach Sukkot, no. Okay, say there. Why should she be muksa, right? There's a pregnant woman's feast over here. So, that's something, then there's feltzach nicht, side by side. No, after Sukkot, we're good to go. Okay. What about, the days before Sukkot, and you're an esrig merchant, for example? No? What's Uksta? Is it a chesaron kiss? So he says it's a chesaron kiss because he's so careful. You come in there, and if you even look at it the wrong way, he's already getting nervous, right? If for its usage, it's a schayra. I'm not doing anything else except for selling it. That's for sure. And for anything else, it's makbid gomer. Maybe if you're a moicher, sorry? Even if it doesn't have a pit. He says that you only care if it has a pitim. People touching it, you know what happens when people touch it? Hey, it's, brown, brown and smoke matter. You understand? After a while, not pretty, right? So what do you say? Sorry? Loichel. Is it, what do you say? Wasn't it oichel? What do you say? It doesn't oichel. Doesn't oichel, right? Why you not oichel, right? Whatever the answer to that is, it's the same answer. It doesn't oichel, okay? Don't cause trouble, okay? But so he's miyachid it to sell for a chefetz of a mitzvah, and oibazai, maybe, if he's a merchant, we hear. L'chayr, right? L'chayr? Does anybody want to argue on that? L'chayr, if he's a merchant, l'chayr, anyone? It's a l'chayr, it's a chesar. Let's see. Comes again the Ramah in Tafresh and Ches. Over there it's esrig, lilith, all these things, right? Okay, the Shmir Shabbos says already in Shmir Shabbos Chaf, or Samach Zayin, he says if you're selling it, what's to discuss, right? If the esrig is for sale, avada, that's a chesron kiss. That's a chesron kiss. But he's very careful. He won't move it, not for any other reason. He won't. Let's say somebody comes and says, "Oh, I just want to smell the esrig. Can I smell the esrig?" You smell the esrig. Go. You smell the esrig, right? Smell the esrig. No, smell the esrig. All right? Get out of here, you dangerous person. What are you talking? Don't touch my schayra. Touch my schayra. What are you crazy? Thank you. You're the. He has a sign. Don't smell this right again. They all have corona. Don't. Right? Don't. He doesn't let nobody touch it. Am I right? No one's smelling my esrogim. They're not even if it's smell. Okay. Now the shayla's like this. Okay. The rest of us were not moichrei esrogim, and now we have this new esrog from Shabbos, right? For me, it'd be gewaldig if people would bring me this esrogim to check on Shabbos. It's much easier for my life, because then, during the week I like to learn and things like that, right? And every day I find a new problem with my sukkah, and anybody's a guy understands this, every day is like a new problem with the sukkah, So, but if I could just check this esrogim on Shabbos, it would make my life a lot easier. So then, what do you say to that? So that already doesn't refer to Ramah again. In Tafresh Nun Ches, Ramah says, Tafresh Nun Ches says base. He says ha'esrig muter betilto because it's right to pashtis the price can explain because you can smell it. You can smell. Now, should I give you a little bit of background? You want some background or no? It's like this. Hadassim are oimid. What's the purpose of hadis? Right? It's the things connected the reyach, connected Klal Yisrael that have. But in the whole year, what's the knack of a hadis? Is that it smells good. Memela on Sukkos. Listen closely. Memela on Sukkos itself. During the 7 days of Sukkot, you're not allowed to smell the hadasim. Why? Because it's muksa l'mitzvah. This has nothing to do with hilchos muksa of the conventional Shabbos terminology of muksa. It means she is oimid for a mitzvah. You're not allowed to use her for a different purpose on a Tuesday. Nothing to do with hilchos Shabbos muksa. Listen, heed my words. Okay? It means Tuesday you decide you want to smell your hadasim. You're not allowed to because she's oimid for the purpose of the mitzvah. It's a different type of muksa. But b'meila, that turns her into muksa because to use a hadis to smell You're not allowed, because you're not allowed on a Tuesday to smell it's during Yom Tiv. And to go and use it for its usage in Shabbos for Shteitzach, there is no usage. So what is it? It's total muksa. So your adasim, maybe if it's attached to the lulav and everything, fine. That's total muksa. Okay, that's an evil muksa. That's a gufa. You can't move it. Not the tzarech gufa. Not the tzarech mekayim. You can call it chesron kiss. Call it what you want. Right? Call it anything you want. You can't move it. Not the tzarech gufa. Not tzarech mekayim. That's easy. Okay. However, esrogim is not like that. Do you know you're allowed to smell your esrog in the middle of the week? You know why? Because the esrog is oimid for what purpose? Mitzad the cheftza shabai, to eat. It's a pre. One of the things that the Rabbi Shalom did to make the esrog endear to you, is because you have to work very hard to make it taste good, is that he made it smell very good, right? But that's not the ikar function of the esrog. So therefore, on the Yom Tif of Sukkot, you're allowed to smell your esrog. So we don't have that issue. So now go back to Shabbos, okay? So now go back to Shabbos. Wait. So now to smell her, I'm allowed, okay? It's an esrog. I want it for the mitzvah, whatever. Okay. So now says the Ramah, very simple rate. He says, so your esrog is mutter. It's not chesron kiss. It's not anything. Why? Because it has another usage. It has another usage. Atkan is what it says in the Ramah. Good. Problem starts like this. Two problems. Problem number one is the Mishabura in a few places. The Mishabura there, the Mishabura in Siman, where it talks about Reyach and Reshit Zayin or Reshit Zayin over there. The Mishabura says, don't smell your esrog on Yom Tif. You know why? Because it's a very big shaila what bracha to make. What bracha do you make on an esrog when you want to smell it on when I say Yom Tif, I mean the whole sukkah. I mean on Tuesday, whatever, right? Why? What bracha are you going to make? You make a noise in reich toy beperes. Comes again the chazain ish, and he says, it's chazain ish coming from Rishayim, whatever, but I'm just saying the names of those that were marked. Chazain ish says, you can't smell her because now she's not a pri. Now she's not a prey because she's now oimid. She becomes a chefza the mitzvah. Chazal, when they said anois and reach toy beperes, they were talking about something that's a pre that you eat. So if you have an esrog that you eat and you want to make a brach on it, it's a anois and reach toy beperes. Chazal has all these problems with like cinnamon that you're taking for Avdallah. He says, what do you mean now when you're taking the cinnamon, you were miyached for Avdallah? So what are you going to make on it? A anois and reach toy beperes. It's oimid to be a mitzvah for smelling, and it's got all types of problems. It's very bothered. But so Abdullah's under shmuz. But that's what so the Mishabura says is a very big problem. Very big problem. It's because really the Torah wants you to have a pre. So maybe it's a pre. You hear the lumdis. Maybe she is a pre. Because Torah wants you to have a pre. So it's a pre that you're not going to eat. Yeah, but it's a pre, and you're not even allowed to eat it. You're not allowed to eat it on the 7 days because you're not allowed to eat your esrog because it's oimid for the mitzvah. It was hooked for the mitzvah. What's it oimid for? Eating. So I can't eat it. If I can't eat it, I can't say anois and reich toy beperes and nishkin pri. Right? Chavetz Chaim says, come on, it's not a pri. A pri it's other. So Chavetz Chaim says, don't put up a sign in Me'eshurim against someone who makes a bracha on his esrog. You can't put up a sign against somebody who's doing that. But the Maisa, the minhag is not to do it. Has anybody here on Sukkot ever made a bracha on his esrog? No way. If he did, he didn't know and whatever. What? Sorry? It's not really an edible. You can cut it open and scoop out the juicy part. You just can't get the most out of it. But anyways, so tachas now gets, so now it gets very complicated. Now it gets complicated, no? Because now no one is going to smell her on Shabbos. So therefore, what's it oimid for? For something that I can't do. And to do something else with it, I don't ever smell. I don't do that, right? So maybe now, are you going to say the Ramah didn't know that? The Ramah did nishkevist? The Ramah didn't know? So you can say, no, the Ramah knew that. But the Ramah knew what the bracha was and what you're supposed to do about making a bracha. He knew, we don't. Whatever his shita was, I don't even remember. But he knew what to do, right? So you come to the Rav in Krakow, you say to him, Ramah, what do I do? He tell you what to do. So it was oimid to smell. So what do we do? So what do you say? I'm not convinced. What? So Shabbos Shuva. Let me get to that child. That's a good child because there it's you know what? Go say one better. That Hadasim also has Manolav Milsa, right? So but we'll get to that child. That's a child of Hadasim and esrog before Sukkot. Let's do Sukkot first. You're right. That's also a very big child. We're going to get there in a moment. But Akapanim. So I don't know what's going to be on Sukkot. I don't know. What should we do? Right? It's a huge shaila. What should we do? What do we do? So I don't know. We don't do it, right? But it's an upgefrek to do it. We don't do it because we're not sure halachically what to do. right? But is it abgefragt to smell? No, why is it not abgefragt to smell? Yeah, so the Khan says, right? You can find something else to make a bracha on, b'diavad. There is an eitzah, maybe you'll make a besamim on something and you'll have an zin to pater that too, and maybe it does work, whatever. I'm not saying you're going to do this. But to say it's ad kedei kach, so abgefragt to smell that it's not called not sure. I'm not convinced. You can smell some other pre and you could say, well, I don't have another pre. I hear, okay. But I don't know if that's what's kaveya. It's the shima. We want to figure out when we're daning chesrin kiss, is it's shimush something a makbid not to do? So for its own shimush, yes, because I can't take the esrog. For a different shimush, a makbid not to smell, that's complicated. Am I makbid not to smell because halachically I can't smell it? No, I'm not makbid. If I would have a different fruit, I just don't have that other fruit. So that's not makbid not to smell. So beside, we could still go with the psak of the Halakha Ramah. We can go with the psak of the Ramah. We can go with the psak of the Ramah, and we can say in esrog she's not muksa. So what are you going to say? Kallus the bis mishiga in esrog. The day mishiga, you normal? The day before Sukkot in esrog, right? My wife knows, right? The esrog goes to sleep in her bed. She's on the couch. I thought, don't even look, right? I saw you looking. You looked. I didn't look. I saw you looking. What are you talking, right? An esrog, right? An esrog before Sukkot. What are you talking, right? An esrog, how careful we are with an esrog beforehand, right? So I saw in the Sefer Orcha Shabbos, he says I didn't write down where. Could be upset me. In the Sefer Orcha Shabbos, he writes, an esrog is muksa, it's a vada chesrin kiss. Give us, what are you talking? Of course it's chesrin kiss, right? Chesrin kiss. People are so careful with the esrog, he wouldn't use it for that, and he doesn't use it to smell either. He's so careful, he's not going to use it to smell. He doesn't want anything to happen to his esrog. You come Shaila. Esrog's a nayazach. Esrog's a new thing. Hab's gehat esrogim in the haim. I proved to this, the whole ksais, right? Where he talks about taka. It's an avnei milib, talking about being mekadosh and isha with an esrog. It does a ganze meisim, right? So esrog is something they had 200 years ago for sure. Okay? Did they have esrogim 700 years ago? Did they have esrogim 700 years ago? You have a raya or no? What? Anyone? Where's the raya? There's a Ramban in Lulav HaGazel that talks about an esrog. Ramban was about 800 years ago. So now we know there's a Ramban, right? Did they have esrog? Were they careful with esrogim 700 years ago? Let's see. There was one in the town. Halavai, fancy guy from Gateshead. Woo, one in the town. Fancy guy from Gateshead. Chmein the 5 towns, yeah? What are you talking? The whole Krakonian, all the suburb block. Talking about, huh? So they weren't careful. You're telling me, everyone knows Yana story, and the wife got upset and she bit the pitim and, Hareini, right? Some of the stories we don't know. Hareini, Oymid La Roy, some of the stories we don't know, right? They were careful with the esrog. They were careful. So to be careful with an esrog. Only you're careful with the esrog, you. Yeah? What are you talking? In those days, what are you talking? Careful with the esrog, right? He said, esrog, one esrog in the ganze shtetl. You weren't careful with the esrog. So here, maybe after day one, when they had everybody's finger lock and everybody's fingerprints and the mask in the zeit, and so maybe I could hear. But the Ramah doesn't differentiate, and he sounds like on day one, she's, even on Shabbos and whatever, and Shabbos before, right? The Shabbos before. The Orcha Shabbos is saying the Shabbos before it's moksa, because it's chesrin kiss, it's the biggest chesrin kiss in the world. You won't move it, you won't anything in the world, right? But esrog is not a new thing. So what's the answer? I don't know. I don't know. Is it a worse shaila? You can't take the box and just open up the esrog. You'll look at it when you smell it. Why not? You don't have to move it around. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to do anything in order to be able to smell it. No, it's such a grace of pella. The people that look at the esrog, they also open up the box. They look at the esrog. I don't know if the whole kasha is such a kasha b'chlal. Umemela, on the day before, it's okay. For you, who's selling it, somebody who has schayra, that's under shmuz. Kapayim, it's not nesrik, right? It's gelt. So Mamela, it's all the things we spoke about. For itself, he won't use it. He won't let somebody else smell it. He won't take your chances. I don't know if it's doime what we're talking about here. I don't know if it's doime what we're. Sorry. Yeah, but at that point now, he's makbid gomer in every single one. I don't know if I'm scared of you. I don't know. Wait just 1 minute. But now, let me break this up. Let's go one by one because we have a full this question also. Let's go one by one. Before Sukkot, right, if you're a moicher, game over. Mamish, Makbe, Gomer, even I'm asking, does a chesron kiss? I'm asking. Rosh Shabbos, he says, Rosh Zman agrees to him. No, he doesn't. Rosh Zman was talking about the moicher. I ain't sham in the Shmir Shabbos. No, he doesn't. He's talking about the moicher, and I agree with the moicher, because the moicher does his mamech chesron kiss. He doesn't let you smell, he doesn't let you look at it, he doesn't let you anything it. Okay. Before Sukkot, you're not a moicher. Why not? Smelling it, you're for sure allowed to smell it, and you can even make a bracha and smell it, because it's not Zman alav milsa. You know what? Hadassim too. Why should they be muksa? Why not? Why should they be muksa? Why not? Why should they be muksa? It's not gay. A lot of people that buy the hadassim, like me, I throw them in the fridge, you know? That's what you told me to do that, no? That's right, I put them in the fridge. So sometimes they get in the way of all the other things. And so you needed to tzarech mekayma, tzarech gufa, tzarech this, tzarech that. It's not muksa. She's not muksa before Yontif. She's not muksa. Should I tell you a secret? Should I tell you a secret? You ready for this? Shabbos, even till, I got news for you. You could smell the hadassim. Yontif, impress your friends and family. You could smell the hadassim on Yontif night, the first night. Okay? What? This year? No, I mean even on Yontif. Smelling mamish. You're not allowed to smell hadassim. It says in First Halacha. You're not allowed to smell hadassim because they're oimid for the muksa. They're oimid for the mitzvah. So it's muksa not to do anything except for the mitzvah. But as manolav milsa. We paskin as manolav milsa. We paskin until you use it, it doesn't get the shame of the chefetz of the mitzvah. So when does it get the shame of the chefetz of the mitzvah? At alois, when a normal person is already practicing his mitzvah, maybe by night or whatever. That's when he gets it, right? Maybe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Depends what time you wake up. What? Until you use it. There's no games here. Boss? Yontif, for sure, you can move it. That's no question. On Yontif, you can move it because it's Yontif, you can time it for its mitzvah on Yontif. So it's not muksa. I'm just saying you cannot smell her. Okay? So Shabbos, wait, one moment. Let me just finish the cases. So Shabbos before Yontif, Hadassim, Sroigim, smell them, throw them up and down, move them around, show them, bring it to Kallus to check. Why can't they bring it to me to check? What's the problem? Anybody know? The only thing I was thinking is that maybe not. Maybe that's like schoira that you might return, especially if you didn't pay for it, and especially if you did pay for it. Right? But it depends who you are. But you understand, there it might be worse. If you didn't pay for it, that's why no one's bringing it to Kallus to check on Yontif, because that taka might be still in the realm of a klei schoira. You understand what I say? That just one moment. I'll get to every case. But that's mamish in the realm of a klei schoira because you didn't pay for it and you don't know if you're taking it and this and blah, right? But let's go weiter. So now it's my esrig. It's my esrig before Shabbos, before Yontif, no problem. She's not muksa. That's what it says in the Ramah, and nothing has changed. Now, Derech Agav, there's an Aruch Shulchan, which I don't know what to do with, so I'm just leaving it. There's Aruch Shulchan. In one place, he says it is a chesaron kiss. That's by us in Shin Ches Yud Zayin. But there's one in Tafresh Nun Ches where he says it's not muksa. So Aruch Shulchan, I don't know what to do. What? I don't know. That's I'm not sure. I don't know. I have all my possible. One of these things that we're saying might fix it. I don't know. Maybe it's the moicher. I don't know. You have to see there. But I admit I don't understand the Aruch Shulchan. That's why I'm sort of staying away from the Aruch Shulchan. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the Barnei Shlomo Mazakas with some type of milk. But anyways, let's go weiter. Now we get to Yontif, and it's the Shabbos in the middle of Yontif. The Shabbos in the middle of Yontif. Okay, Yontif itself, is not muksa, right? But Shabbos in the middle of Yontif, which it's muksa, you're not using it for a mitzvah, right? So the estrig, can I, play with the estrig and things like that? Can I smell the estrig or whatever? So, Lefi, what you're hearing from me, why not? Why not? I'll tell you another thing. Interesting. I think a lot of people, not the hadassim. The hadassim mamish is aser gomer. That's mamish b'furish and halacha. That's the Ramah. That's b'furish. Because hadassim is muksa l'mitzvah during the 7 days. It's oimid not to be smelled, and therefore its ticker function is to smell, and you're not going to smell. So therefore, about this, she's muksa. But in esrig, you could smell. I got to think another thing in the Balabatishkai. Like by day one, we're like, azay careful with the esrig. Okay? Then we take it the first time. Some people takes them maybe once they got the Yotze the Deraisa, maybe in Chutzlar it's 2 days. Then by like the 3rd day already, slowly you tell your wife, no, you can sleep in your bed tonight. Slowly, right? And so then the esrog gets onto the couch, and then slowly, and slowly somebody has a shaila, he asks me, the esrog is under the bed. How did the esrog get under the bed? He wants to know, can you now use it because it doesn't have a shame of pre, because you can't eat it? How did the esrog get under the bed? On day one, you wouldn't put your esrog under the bed. It's on the bed, right next to you on the pillow. You know what I mean? The Balabatishkeit, no, Rabbi Sher? Other rabbis, you know what I'm talking about? What? But showing off, we saw that might not be a shimush. I don't know. That's like, I don't know what that is exactly. I don't know exactly what it is. What? Part of the chatz of an esrog is to show it off, right? No, but you get my point. By the second day, he's not already, you get what I'm saying? By the second day, he's anyways not as crazy makbid, he would probably smell it. Even the Shitas, let's say the Orcha Shabbos, he would probably smell it anyways, right? So by day 2, 3, whatever, on that Shabbos, I don't think the esrog is muksim. Why should we change him in Furish Ramah? Why should we change him in Furish Ramah? What happened? It's over? No, we have another minute. What happened today? No, we have 2 minutes. What happened? Now, if the Pittim, let's say Rabbi Cooper, let's say one of the Pittim fell off, Chas v'Chalila, right? One of the Pittims fell off, and then it's on Shabbos, and you're the Moicher. You're the Moicher. What? Pasha say Bigudis Katzai, Pasha say Bigudis Katzai, because at the beginning of Shabbos she was Oymid for Schayra, and even though now it's Oymid for nothing, right? But Afal Piken, it's Bigudis Katzai, and then she reminds Moksa, no? What? Sorry? Nah, but I'm saying, he's definitely not careful anymore. No, you're not careful. He's definitely not careful anyways. I'm saying, so it'll be maybe a Machtal Yitzer the most, but Kafi Maisvar, but another case, one more case. I see we're out of time. Okay. But what happened? We didn't get to the Pesach plates. Did Mama do anything? No? What happened here? All right. Matzah's mitzvah. This year it's Nagaya. Who knows when Pesach falls out this year? Huh? So this year is Erev, Pesach, Shechal, Shabbos. So now what do you have? Are you allowed to eat Pesach? Are you allowed to eat matzahs on Erev Pesach? No. Right? What? Not to eat the whole day. The whole day. You're not allowed to eat matzah the whole day. Now they eat matzah the whole day. You're not allowed to eat matzah. There's a kasha on Reb Chaim has the kasha. What? Sorry? There's a kasha Reb Chaim Salvechik has the kasha. It says, Shebechoil ha-leilos, which is a Mishnah, right? Shebechoil ha-leilos anu oichlim chametz matzah halayla zeh kuloi matzah. Right? I got it right? Yeah. Shebechoil ha-leilos, I haven't been the youngest child in a while. Hakoil ha-leilos anu oichlim chametz matzah. Kol ha-leilos anu oichlim chametz matzah? Kol ha-leilos anu oichlim chametz matzah? Really? The night before Pesach, you allowed to eat matzah? The night before Pesach. So some of us have the minig for 15 days, for 30 days, and whatever, right? The kids, the one v'zukta us. No, the Mishnah is saying the halacha, right? What do you mean? The night before, you don't eat chametz matzah, you eat kulei chametz. It's not true. So there's a Shittas Arishan, the Balmor, and he holds you're not allowed to eat. The Mishnah sounds like you can't eat matzah erev Pesach. The Balmor says, yeah, even the night before, The Reb Chaim Soloveitchik says it can't be. It's in first Mishnah, not like you. Right? Okay, something to think about. But anyways, right? Sorry? The chametz, the matzah is okay. All right, but that could be you're not eating even in the morning then. Oh, you mean? That's not chametz. That's chametz. Anti-Semite. What are you doing to me? I think you're getting out of making a kiddush. 1 second. How do we get into that? Oh, so Mamela, this year, the matzahs mitzvahs. Are you careful with those matzahs? Right? So careful with those matzahs. To eat them, you're not allowed to eat them. To do something else with them, what? Smell them. Burnt. It smells like brisk after the fire, Right? What are you smelling? What? Was brennt? Was, right? It smells like sriracha. But what are you smelling? So for its own usage, metarnished. For something else, you would never. So she might be a moksim emes cheshvan kiss, no? That's a emes cheshvan kiss. I saw the Shmir Shabbos. He brings down a prima godim. I didn't look up inside, so I'm being mistamech on what he says. He brings in chav, ois chav beis. He says that taka she's moksa. Your erev Pesach this year, it's Nagaya this year. Your matzahs this year, they are moksa. What? Even? No, but the meaning of all of Klal Yisrael is not to eat them anyways that night. Anyways. And it turns into, by day, it can turn into. But the Chassidim, you don't have to blame just the Chassidim. The Hungarian Jews also. Some of them, You also don't. Well, the Bnei Yisrael already by Hanukkah stopped eating matzah. What are you talking about? What? Yeah. What happened today? We mamish didn't do it. So, tomorrow, remind me, we got to start with the Pesach Kelim. You guys still don't know what's with the Pesach Kelim? Okay, I stick around. I'll meet you upstairs, Rabbi said. I see these new faces. Whoever needs a chavrusa should come to me. What? There's a kiddush? There is a kiddush? Wait, Rabbi said there's a kiddush. There's a kiddush. It's for happy birthday for Tzvi Greenberg. So everybody has to say. Let me go in, Rabbi said, no?